everybody, Marcel Ernie, Racing News, the Canadian journalist. Ukraine snatching men off the streets to fight. The New York Times has woken up to the fact that Ukrainian men are being dragged into battle using corrupt conscription tactics. The Times published this piece calling the Ukrainian army people snatchers. People snatchers. Ukraine's recruiters use harsh tactics to fill ranks. Ukrainian men are reporting incidents of wrongful draft notices, unprofessional medical commissions, and coercive mobilization tactics. It says that men are being dragged off the streets with brute force and taken from their homes in order to force them into the fight against Russia. Recruiters have confiscated passports, taken people from their jobs, and, in at least one case, tried to send a mentally disabled person to military training, according to lawyers, activists, and Ukrainian men who have been subject to coercive tactics, the Times reports. Yes, this has been happening for months and is increasingly necessary because Ukraine has thrown its entire population of young men into the meat grinder. I've actually reported on this, 5-6 months ago, maybe it was a year ago. This has been known for a long time. There's video footage of parents trying to stop these Ukrainian military dressed personnel, and just sometimes people just dressed as goons trying to steal their children, trying to steal the young men, and they're fighting against it, and the parents are hitting them with whatever they can to stop them from taking their kids. Imagine if this was going on in your country. So yes, this has been happening for months and is increasingly necessary because Ukraine has thrown its entire population of young men into the meat grinder. Even Time magazine admits that an average age of Ukrainian soldier is 43 years old. The younger generation have died to take back the land from Russia. The people living in those regions asked to join Russia to stop Ukraine from terrorizing those lands, which has been doing so since 2014. Sidebar, I've also done a story about this. The people of Donbass showed video footage from years earlier, all the military shells that have landed on the villages of Donbass and the cities in that region attacked by the Ukrainian military. In fact, they've been forced to stop their language. You're not allowed to speak Russian. You got to realize that Ukraine is full of Russian ethnic people from when the USSR was disbanded. And they asked for help from Putin, from Russia, to help save their lives because they're being attacked by their own government with military bombings of the tens of thousands of people reported dead. It's a horror, the New York Times called it, in a suicide mission. Suicide mission crossing the Dnipro River. And what happens to these forced conscripts? They're no good on the battlefield because they are not trained for that. Ukraine's military intelligence chief Kirill Budanov admitted as much in a recent panel discussion. He said that people who are forced to enlist have an efficiency that is almost zero. But still, forced conscription will continue. It is impossible to escape mobilization, he stated. There are currently 1.1 million people in the Ukrainian armed forces. No recruiting can cover such volumes. Here we are on the forced conscripts not effective. Coercing citizens into fighting has failed and they must be motivated properly. Budanov says, forcibly conscripted Ukrainians are performing poorly on the battlefield, Kiev's military intelligence chief Kirill has admitted. He warned, however, that the country's harsh recruitment drive must continue, and then no one will be able to escape mobilization. The spy master made the remarks during a panel discussion titled 2024 Challenges and Prospects, excerpts from which were circulated by local media on Sunday. Budanov backed the idea of continuing forced conscription into the country's military, claiming it was the only way to maintain numbers. Quote, it is impossible to escape mobilization, he said. There are currently 1.1 million people in the Ukrainian army. No recruiting can cover such volumes. We don't have that many people willing to do anything, actually. I'm not even talking about fighting. Budanov added, admitting that most Ukrainians prefer to support the country's troops away from the front lines. Yeah, we all don't want to be dying in a meat grinder for your political espionage. Like, Jesus. Political persuasion, coercion, conquest for the USA, NATO, satellite war. Here's a fantastic quote. The majority of our people, despite everyone shouting, I am Ukrainian, Ukraine, above all, have not realized themselves as citizens of Ukraine. The country has long run out of volunteers who are keen to fight Russian forces, with everyone willing have enlisted during the first 6 months of the conflict. But enough said, those who end up in the country's military ranks must be properly motivated, the spy chief. Who is being called up now, he asks. Unfortunately, there is no good answer. If you don't find motivation for these people, then regardless how many people are forced into an enlisted according to the law, their efficiency will be almost zero, which is basically what's happening lately. Ukraine launched a general mobilization shortly after the start of the conflict with Russia in February 2022, barring most men aged 18 to 60 from leaving the country. The conscription drive has been riddled with difficulties, in particular rampant corruption and draft dodging. Ukrainian recruit officers at the same time have been accused of becoming increasingly violent and lawless in their effort to catch more would-be soldiers. Numerous videos circulating online, which I came across a year ago, guys, and shared on Rumble anyways, have shown officers chasing potential recruits in the streets, raiding public venues, and even beating up their victims. Ukrainian authorities have admitted difficulties with bolstering the military's ranks. A top aide to President Vladimir Zelensky conceded earlier this month the further mobilization would be complicated, suggesting that the government needs to crank up its propaganda element to attract new recruiters. This is Ernie Racing News, guys. Have a good one.